gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast, where Kamala's big girl interview was a big-ass fail. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome back, Right Guys podcast. Happy Friday, happy Friday. Kamala Harris finally sat down for her big girl interview. Big girl interview. It wasn't really a big girl interview because she had her emotional support running mate there. And the left is all claiming like, oh, it's not unnatural for your first interview after a convention to be with your running mate. That's true. But not your first interview as a presidential candidate.
Since you've been nominated.
We've never had someone do their first presidential candidate interview with their running mate because it's never been like this. You've never had it. And I don't have cable, so I didn't watch the whole thing, but I've watched all the clips. I think I've seen all of it now. Pre-recorded so that the campaign could get out in front of any bad thing she said. The thing that just struck me so much about it, Josh.
Yeah.
I thought she was avoiding the press conference because she was afraid she was going to say something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time she talks without a teleprompter, she says something stupid. It's almost like Biden's dementia is contagious.
Yeah. Been in the same room too long.
I'm convinced, though, that the reason that she's been ducking this interview is because she doesn't actually know what her policies are. She knows what she believes. And if you watch the old clips of her when she ran for president in 2020, everything was, I believe, I want to do this. I want to do this. She's not saying that anymore.
Yeah.
And you notice every time that she's flip-flop on something, it hasn't actually been her changing her mind. It's been her campaign saying, oh, well, she doesn't support that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're not saying she doesn't believe that anymore, right? They're just saying that she's going to lie to the American people and promise to do something she doesn't believe in. And then you get completely like bullshit, means nothing kind of answers. Like she was asked a question about what are you going to do on day one? And that's a really simple answer to give. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Probably the easiest answer, policy answer you can get because you know what your first executive orders are going to be. Well, Josh, this was her answer for what are you going to do on day one?
What would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward.
It's not an answer.
What was
Donald
that?
Trump's answer. On day one, I am ordering the beginning of construction for the border wall. On day one, that's what I'm doing. On day one, we are going to begin deporting the criminal illegal aliens in this country. And after we get all the criminals out, then we're going to start deporting the people who haven't committed crimes yet, right?
Yeah.
Mass deportations. Jess, do you see what's happening in Aurora, your neck of the woods?
Oh, I've not only been watching it, man. It's like a symptom of something that's worse because there's a lot of craziness even up and down the I-25 corridor. But Venezuelan gangs taking over entire apartment complexes where it was denied by the governor and denied by the mayor, and then
the mayor didn't deny it. The mayor said it's happening.
Yeah, but I think at first he took a position where he's like, no, I don't think it is. And then all the videos started showing up and suddenly he's like, well, it is. You know, there's two separate interviews where he's kind of denying it and then another one where he's admitting it. But I mean, you watch the ring camera and there are guys walking around with
rifles,
high-powered rifles with scopes. Like, where do they get all this stuff?
And wild. You know, it's not just a Venezuelan gang. My understanding is it's a Venezuelan prison gang.
Yeah.
That this is not like a gang outside of prison that also happens to be in prison. That this is a Venezuelan prison gang. So when Donald Trump says Venezuela is emptying their prisons and sending these people to the United States, and all of a sudden the biggest news story is that there's a Venezuelan prison gang in the United States. Where did they come from? Very obviously, they came from a Venezuelan prison.
Hey, come on, get back here. But nobody cares.
And when you see that Venezuela's violent crime murder rate is down like 70%, why is it down? Because the gangs carrying the guns in the cities are doing it here instead of there.
Sanctuary City, Colorado, or Denver, whatever it is.
How can that be? Like, how is this acceptable? Right? I'm trying.
It's acceptable when you have a Democrat governor, and you got a ton of sheriffs who are also very liberal. It's easy when everybody looks the other way until finally you've got Venezuelan gangs living in an apartment, not just living there. They're taking them over and extorting rent out of people.
Yeah.
Right. They're turning these into, and now they're starting to leverage it to make money.
They've pushed out the property managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is an op-ed written by Jimmy Sengenberger, friend of the program.
Fantastic.
I've known Jimmy for a long time when I lived in Colorado. Been on his radio show a lot. He's been on this show. He's been on the old show. Op-ed that he wrote in the Denver Gazette. Venezuelan gangs run amok in Aurora. And this image on the screen is a Ring video doorbell capturing a Venezuelan gang just not open carry, brandishing weapons. And now, Josh, the first thing I did when I saw this is I pulled up Google Maps. I said, how close was this to where I was living?
Mm-hmm.
Not super close, but I've gone shopping in that area.
You bet.
Ironically, when I needed Hispanic spices, not a lot of those when I was living in Parker, Colorado. But this is crazy.
Oh, it's not crazy. This is a direct result of Democrat policy, of liberal policy. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't help but see it. Yeah. This is what you get when you have a Jared Polis. This is what you get when you have a sanctuary city. You have an open border, right? Yeah. We're being taken over from the inside, and people, I mean, they're just walking around with blinders on their eyes in Colorado, right?
Imagine paying your rent to your landlord and then getting a knock at the door. Surprise. It's the Venezuelan prison gang demanding that you pay them rent too.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Yeah. This is crazy.
Coming to a city near you.
Ray commented on Rumble. Good point. If she was running her campaign, she would interview with everyone. Yes. And there's reporting that's come out in the past week that one of the reasons that they haven't let Tim Walz do solo interviews is that while he can say what he believes in, that might not mesh with what the campaign believes in. Oh. And Kamala Harris could give an interview, as you said, if she was running her campaign, because if it's just what she believes in, then she can easily give the answer. But if what she believes in isn't her campaign's policies, then no, you can't give an interview. Uh-huh. You can't give a substantive answer because then your campaign's going to say, actually, no, she doesn't believe that.
So was this the only interview she's going to do for the entire campaign cycle?
No, she'll have to.
Well, it's only done one, and we're into almost September, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy by itself. So
I know.
Maybe we get a handful more, 2, 3, right at the current pace. Yeah. If she gets to 3, they're gonna rail it like it's a miracle she got there. It's incredible what she's done. Look at her policy. She's running on a record, which is kind of crazy, right? Or is she running on a record?
No, she's not. She wants the pomp and circumstance of being the incumbent, while also you just heard her in that clip saying we're going to do a new way forward, way forward with the status quo. You can't have it both ways. Mm-hmm. What she's hoping is that uninformed voters will say, "Oh wow, a historic Black candidate is promising change." Mm-hmm. Where does that? What does that remind me of? Right?
Where have we heard that?
But you can't say you're going to change current policy that you also say you agree with. Case in point, her still saying that she believes in Bidenomics.
is a success.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America. What we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work.
So she supports Bidenomics, but also doesn't want to support Bidenomics. Listen, it's. Go ahead.
Did she even answer a question in there? I heard a bunch of rhetoric, like hyperbole shit, right? And just
no. And
there's nothing
we've
in
already had caps on prescription drug prices, right?
yeah,
So
insulin especially.
like anyone, well, Donald Trump pushed that through. Then one of the first things that Biden did on day one, first week in office, was to rescind Donald Trump's cap on insulin so that he could claim credit for it and do it himself. No, it's just, yeah, I capped your prescription meds, but I made your food 50% more expensive.
More. Right.
Right.
Oh, but,
I made housing is unaffordable for the average American in more than 90% of the country.
Bidenomics at work.
Let me say that again. The average American cannot afford to buy a home in 90% of the country.
Man, we're on the verge of some mass poverty. All thanks to Bidenomics.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's getting worse.
And the flip side of this that you see from leftists, Democrats is, oh, you don't want you want lower home values, huh? You don't like homes becoming worth more. Well, if I was going to sell my home, I'd love that.
Yeah.
But you know what happens when your home goes up in price by 40% in a very short period of time? Your property taxes go up 30, 40% in that short period of time. And if you're not planning on moving, you're stuck with that. I have my property tax challenge. Again, do it every year.
Yeah.
I was out of town for much of the summer, so I now have to do an in-person one. That's going to be fun. Go my little briefcase, click, open up. Here you go, Mr. Assessor. That's in like 2 weeks. That'll be really fun.
That is going to be great.
But my property taxes have gone up every single year of the Biden presidency. And I get it. He's not in charge of that. Joe Biden didn't convince my local county tax assessor to raise my property values, right? But when the federal government starts pushing all of these programs on states, right? You always hear from the Biden administration, oh, we're so proud that all these cities have embraced like free lunches, free and subsidized lunches. You ever see that? Like, oh yeah. Their big thing is that they want kids to have free school lunches over the summer. Which once you try and understand how does that work if they're not in school, they're basically just trying to make sure these kids get fed. Yeah. In itself, that's not really a bad thing. Like having kids have at least one warm meal a day isn't bad. No. But then you ask, how are you going to pay for that? Right. Right. So when school districts buy into this program, they have to find the funding for it. Right. And where do school districts get their funding? Largely through property taxes. There's other forms like sin taxes on cigarettes and alcohol, gambling, but property taxes by and large. So yes, my property taxes have gone up. Some of my property taxes increases can be attributed to my county signing on to Biden's shit. Yeah. Right. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. And even if I sold my house, where am I going to buy? Yeah. Everything's way more expensive. And even if I took every cent of my home and put it towards a new home, the amount of the mortgage would be more than what's my balance is now. So I'd have a new 30-year mortgage when I'm already like 7 years in. And my interest rate would be double. So my mortgage rate would double. If I move, my mortgage rate would double. My mortgage payment would double.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't like out of control runaway increases in property values. It's bad.
Unless what happens? Well, think about the wonderful thing California just did to artificially add $150,000 in liquidity to the housing system, right? And then what that does is it artificially inflates the price of the house because
just for illegal aliens.
Yes. Nobody else, just for people who have broken the law coming over the border. So if you live in America, you do not get any of this. But $150,000, which will cause the inflation of California house prices to get to a point where it'll be a feudal system. Very few people will be able to own the property.
And what happens? So like, this is why you don't do this. Like, okay, let's say you give Pablo 150 grand to go buy a house. Okay. Well, in 2 years, when Pablo actually has his deportation hearing, and Pablo is ordered removed from the country, who gets the house?
Well, that'd be a mortgage. It'd be a bad mortgage, right?
The bank just gets the house.
The bank gets the house, right? Yeah, but think about that. It would be all those loans that would crash. You want to talk about ruining another part of the economy. Suddenly there'd be all these bad loans out there. We saw that in 2008, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but it would be worse this time because inflation has gotten so high.
Yeah. One of the lessons of the 2008 crash was that there are some people out there who at that moment in time cannot afford a home. And it is bad policy to give them a home anyway. Right? I mean, that's the ultimate lesson, right? And they've had reforms. I hate a lot of the reforms. It's really hard if you're self-employed to get a house now. But their goal is, so when people buy a home, they've at least done the due diligence to make sure you can keep paying that mortgage. And then you're not just going to walk away the minute that property values go down a little bit. Giving $150,000 of home purchasing assistance to a class of people who are literally one court hearing away from being deported from the country.
It's just asinine.
I'm not talking about people who might not have a job in a month. I'm talking about people who might not legally be allowed to live in the United States in a month. Right? I mean, what are we doing here? And it's not just like they're just, illegal aliens snuck into the system. This program is designed around illegal aliens. And so we're clear, when Kamala Harris laid out her similar plan, $25K in home purchasing assistance, one of the conservative points was, I bet you this is going to go to illegal aliens. The fact checker said, she didn't say illegal aliens, but it would apply to non-citizens. Right?
Oh my God! Yeah.
They don't say they're not illegal aliens because they're technically paroled, so they're technically in the country legally until the court orders them to be removed. Right? So these are illegal aliens. They've just slapped a different label on them.
Yeah. And think about it.
It's making me mad.
Once they get the property, though, now they have to get a bunch of stuff, right? Like they have to be on paper, so they most likely are going to be given, some voting registration stuff. They'll be legitimized. They'll have to get a driver's license because of everything that's going to be associated with getting that home. It's going to force a de facto. It's just going to give them citizenship, right? I mean that's the point here. It's just a secret way to give illegal citizenship.
It is harder to deport someone from the country who owns real property.
That's the
right.
Yeah.
And who owns real property at the behest of the state. The state told the illegal alien to buy property. This illegal alien bought property, and now the state is going to remove the illegal alien and take the property. That's a lot harder of an argument, legally, ethically, and morally. Yeah. Because there are a lot of non-citizens who own property in the United States.
Yeah.
Right. Now, it's crazy. But she said
I mean,
something there that
yeah.
really made me angry, because this is how they are twisting the data. She says in 2021 we cut the child poverty rate in half. Do you know why they can make that claim? Because the child
Um,
poverty rate soared in 2020 when the government told the entire economy you're not
my
allowed
God.
to work anymore.
My God.
So when the
Really?
government says you're not allowed to go to work, and the government says you got to stay home and you're non-essential, so you can't work, what do you
Yeah.
think that does to the child poverty rate?
It
Goes
goes
up.
way up. Skyrockets.
And when you graciously tell those same people, we've changed our mind, you're allowed to work again, what do you think that does to child poverty rate? Goes
All
back
right.
down.
Goes down because kids are being fed and parents are
So
working.
rather than saying that the decision to close the American economy doubled the child poverty rate, and it was a bad idea, we never
Wow.
should have done it, I'm sorry, the narrative they're spinning is, oh, well, because we were in office when everyone was allowed to work again, we're going to take credit for cutting in half the child poverty rate. See how
We created
dishonest
it.
it is?
Oh, it is.
See
We
how
created
dishonest
it.
it is?
They create it and then they defeat it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a brilliant move. It's a great tactic. We have to point it out to everybody. So like, subscribe, share, make the
Like,
show
subscribe,
sure the
share.
show gets out there. But dude, I forgot the point I was going to make because now I got so pissed off
It
about
reminds
that.
me of
Uh,
it reminds me of how they say that violent crime is going down. Look at this big chart from the FBI saying violent crime going down.
yeah,
And then you read the footnote and it says 22% of police departments have not reported their crime numbers for the year in question. And they include NYPD, LAPD, and almost all Florida. Right? So
yeah,
like,
like
yeah,
the major reporting areas.
there's
Unreal.
less crime in the chart, right? Less crime in the chart right here when you don't take numbers from 22% of the country.
Um, and what's scary is that somebody might vote for this. Somebody might actually make a lot of votes happen for this. So if you don't get out there and vote in November, please get out there. I'm asking you to ask everybody you know to go out there and vote for
Yeah.
Donald Trump. We have
Yeah.
to. There's nothing left. Imagine what this crazy government of ours is going to look like under another 4 years of Walls Harris. They're empty shells. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They have no policy. They're just being run by other people. This is the first time I've seen uh, uh, something like this happen being run by puppet masters, right? There
No,
is
it
nothing
happened
there.
with Biden.
Somebody's.
It happened with Biden too. Happened with Biden too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So,
Trump
yeah,
is
yeah,
running against a system. He's not running
yeah,
against people. You can beat people. It's a lot harder to beat a system. When you have a
yeah,
candidate where every position is poll tested, focus group
yeah.
tested. I mean, what have we seen, right? The most obvious, like, laid out policy proposal she has is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do what Trump's doing. Yeah, no tax on tips. I'm for that too. Oh yeah, the border wall. I'm all about the border wall now.
Yeah, we love it.
She will say whatever her handlers tell her to say because she didn't actually run for president, right? She
Yeah.
didn't actually lay out a vision. So the primaries are important because they weed out the crazy bullshit, right?
Yep.
They weed out the crazy bullshit. And when someone comes in to the primary and says, I believe that illegal aliens should be decriminalized and we should bring more of them into the country, the primary voters say, no, thank you
No.
with that shit. And they show you the door, as they
Yeah.
did with Kamala Harris in 2020 when she was forced out of the race before Iowa even came along.
Yeah.
But when you are installed by the powers that be, your positions aren't like dependent on public support. Your positions are dependent on the powers that be supporting you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
There is somebody's behind the curtain running things, right?
Yes.
Don't pay
Yes.
attention to the man behind the
It's
curtain
Oz.
pulling all. It's crazy, and
Oz.
it's a fantasy. Everything about the Democrat Party is to be fantasy, lies, more lies, untruths,
Yeah.
half truths, mostly truths, no truths. I mean, I don't even know how to fact check things anymore from them because the stuff coming out is just blatantly bull.
You're talking about fact checks. Josh, what about grammar? Have you ever thought that maybe something isn't a lie? Maybe it's just bad grammar?
That you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
Oh my God. That was a horrible there's nothing answer.
So Tim Walz claiming multiple times, not just that time, multiple times that he served in war, right? Being introduced on C-SPAN programs, which we've played here. We've played on this show where he was introduced as a combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. Didn't correct them, right? He said, "Oh, it's just bad grammar. Bad grammar." So he said, "I didn't mean to say in." Right? That bad grammar. I say carried in war. Well, where did you carry these weapons of war, Tim Walz? Like, if in was the wrong word, right? Where did you carry them? Where do you carry them? I don't have a clip for it. This is a question.
Well, what does he mean by grammar? Which words is he picking inside of that? Because I don't know if he understands what grammar is definitionally at this point. And his wife's an English teacher, so that makes him an expert in grammar or a non-expert. I don't know.
But just think about this. They workshopped this, Josh. They said, how are we going to combat the fact that for years, Tim Walz has lied about his rank, has lied about being a combat veteran, has lied about his wife being conceiving a child through IVF, right? He's lied about receiving an award from the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce. I mean, all of these lies are just all of it. How are we going to explain this away? I'm not too good at the word stuff for the grammar stuff. What? Come on. Well,
they picked him.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that he's supposed to be so smart, but he can't get the words out right. He's just some sort of redneck that doesn't know how to speak no more. But we picked him because he was sharp and he was dynamic, and we knew he could help the whole thing, right?
I'm not good at the words.
No.
Listen.
My poor Jimmy, when I was out there, man, boy, I tell you what, and it happened, and we got out there, and I just didn't know what to say with the deal. And
he also said he would never, ever demean someone else's service. And yet, when it came time for him to deploy the National Guard in Minnesota, because Minneapolis was burning, and he didn't deploy the National Guard, the reason that he gave was demeaning the National Guard troops that he would actually deploy.
What he was asking for. He wanted the National Guard, and what does that mean? I think to the mayor, yes, I think it's a perception. I'm certainly not questioning that. I think the mayor said, I request the National Guard. Whew, I'm out. This is great. We're going to have massively trained troops. No, you're going to have 19-year-olds who are cooks in some cases. And what are we going to do and how are we going to use them?
That sounds a little demeaning. I mean, does that sound a little demeaning?
Where's that on the cycle?
I didn't deploy the National Guard to stop Minneapolis from burning because that National Guard, they're just 19-year-old fry cooks.
Oh, my God.
That sounds a little demeaning.
It sounds like a swift kick to the old, you know what, right? Demasculinizing. It's okay. Just get rid of me. You're just demasculizing all those guys, right?
if Donald Trump
Unbelievable.
said that, if Donald Trump said, I'm not going to call for the National Guard to be deployed because they're just a bunch of 19-year-old fry cooks, there would be a line of talking heads around the block outside of CNN waiting to get on television to say how demeaning that is
To the
to
military.
even to fry cooks. It's demeaning to fry cooks too, right?
Poor union chaps.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Another lie, though. I mean,
Lie.
this is like I've never seen a campaign like this before, man. It's a dystopian campaign. It's my favorite word to use because it does feel this way. There's nothing but empty land. There's empty soul inside their party right now. And is this because they know is this a throwaway thing? I mean, is their own internal polls saying it's a crap show? Like just throw anything at the wall at this point to see what sticks? Because why else would you take that kind of angle on it, right? What take the stuff that works and then try to lie away the stuff that doesn't?
Yeah.
That's the whole campaign.
And listen, it feels like we're trying to pull teeth to get real policies out of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. To this day, you go to KamalaHarris.com, they still don't have any policies on the website.
You're kidding,
right?
Well, no way. Like they gotta have something up there.
No, nothing.
I wonder if this is gonna be like a poly market thing.
I'm not even gonna go to it because it pisses me off that it's not there. But it's not there. It is literally there's nothing there, right?
That's well. Why do you think they didn't answer any policy questions? Because they have no policy. They truly have nothing. They're running on a nothing ticket. It's a show about nothing, right? It's a show about nothing, and you're gonna love it. Eat it up, y'all. Eat it up. Vote for me. And think about all the money they've got behind it too. Just hammering out these commercials, making her the joy, pride, change.
Are you getting commercials?
I've seen a few the other day. I thought I saw a Walz one. Now I'm starting to get a lot of local stuff. It's going to start coming in, and I'm seeing it. But man, Colorado is the next in line to turn into California. If you guys don't know, because the very policies they say they don't have are happening here, right? The policies they say they don't have are happening in California, and it's multiplied there. So just if you want that, move here so I can get out.
All right, so I will go to the website to show because we need to support it. KamalaHarris.com. You can meet Kamala Harris, you can meet Tim Walz, you can take action, you can buy their merch. There is no policy on the page, which makes this graph particularly stupid. The effect of Harris and Trump's policy proposals on the federal budget. Kamala Harris has released next to nothing, right? Only thing she's released are we're going to give everyone $25,000 for a home, right?
Yeah.
The minimal things that Kamala Harris has released, that's all you see in this blue. If she actually released policies, it would dwarf what Trump has called for, right?
Yeah.
It would make Trump look super moderate.
Yeah.
But they run the graph before she's released really any policies, very minimal policies. And what do they get? They get, Trump is going to increase the deficit, not Kamala Harris. They're not using anything to base it on.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like she was having a net positive before certain data. So, I mean, this is insane stuff.
Yeah.
Show me the Democrat law or anything where it didn't cost a bunch of money, which ended up costing more money later, which ended up giving away free services to somebody that doesn't even belong in the country.
Yeah.
This is what is that they use these graphs to try to sway that ignorant voter who doesn't know any better, right? I mean, this is meant to scare. And that's the only tactics they have left is to try to scare people into voting for Kamala Harris. Right? That's their tactic. They are using fear. Man, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah. You see it Nate Silver's model flipped by accident?
No.
Let's see if I can
by
find
accident?
It. So Nate Silver I think he's generally smart, but he thinks he's smarter than he probably is, which is definitely a problem across the industry. Um, he created
Let's
his
put it there.
model. He created his model, and he created it to overemphasize polls immediately after a convention. Now he only did this after the DNC, right? Because
Oh,
after the RNC, he pulled his model because Joe Biden dropped out. And he said, "Oh, we have to change the model because Joe Biden dropping out changes everything." Well, so he wrote into his model, into the coding, into the algorithms, that
yeah.
you need to take into account the polls, heavily weight the polls immediately after the Democratic convention. Well, after the Democratic convention, what did you get? You also got Kennedy dropping out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this new model now projects that Trump will win
Oh dear God.
because he's done well. He's done well in the polls. There was no DNC bump. So the model is written to
Whoa.
say there will be a DNC bump. You should really heavily weight the DNC bump because it's significant.
Yeah.
When there isn't a DNC bump, it makes Trump shoot to the lead.
I mean, at one point, feel good about it, gang, but still get out in there and vote. But man, when there was no bump, it shows you there was zero excitement.
Yeah.
It was all manufactured excitement after the DNC.
So what this means is you look here, it says electoral college probability. Trump will win the electoral college 53%. It's just his model, right? You look here, predicted electoral votes. She actually beats him in this. So the reason for that is this model is based on, let's say they run it 100 times. Trump wins 53 times. She wins 56, 50, 46, 47 times, right? But that means she won by bigger margins than Trump. So when you average the margins out, she comes out ahead on average in their electoral votes, right? But that doesn't ultimately matter. A win by one electoral college vote versus a win by 100 is still a win. Doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
So he made his model. He said he wanted his model to take into account the bump. The bump didn't happen, so now Donald Trump's in the lead.
Wow. Embarrassing a little bit, because why would you put so much weight inside of the post DNC bump? And we talked about that. We were like, what kind of bump is she going to see, and is it going to be an effective and a real one? And it obviously it looks like it did not help. It did not help.
No, it didn't help. And listen, this is him saying, okay, I think based on everything, this is how I think it's going to go. 40,000. I use the example of 100. It's 40,000 simulations.
Wow.
So, but again, that's
There's
only as
simulations,
accurate.
yeah.
It's only as accurate as the model itself.
Yeah.
And he was all on social media yesterday, saying like, we really need another poll to come out. Like he and others were like, oh, we need a big Kamala Harris poll. Like we need a +11 poll to come out to right the ship. Well, the +11 poll is bullshit. So if you need a bullshit poll to make your model show she's winning, what does that say about your model?
Yeah. It's time to sit there and rethink this one, guys. Let's get the team together and figure out what's going on. But it makes me wonder if some of the models used sometimes are meant to have an effect on the user. And that's the only reason they come out, right? And then now, once they see that the crash is so precipitous here, that there's really not a lot of support for Harris, the numbers are going to start showing it. We're getting closer to election time, and people are getting less and less afraid to be Trumpers, right? There used to be some hesitation that people would say I'm voting for Trump, but now you've got Democrats who are hardcore Democrats switching. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard just doesn't go from DNC sweetheart to Donald Trump supporter.
No.
Overnight, or at least the party left her. Like the very core principles are different than what they used to be.
We just had a Democrat here in Texas. You get her name.
Yeah.
She just changed parties. She lost the Democratic primary and said, "Screw this, I'll run as a Republican."
Wow.
Here we go. In Houston, Sean Thierry. It's her right there.
Yeah.
With Greg Abbott. She said, okay, screw this. You're going to be crazy. You're going to run someone radical left and appoint them. and make them the Democrat nominee. Screw that. I'll be a Republican.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's how you start getting conservative values out there. Oh,
Yeah.
It's just, I hated the whole thing about it, man. Why can't she go out there and do an interview by herself? Why does Tim Walz have to be present? When he answered the question about
Why
the
did they
Ross Geller,
Why
what's
did they
that?
pick a dark room?
Yeah, I know. There was nothing that looked great about this setup. I mean, it looked just like there was an office at CNN or
Yeah.
wherever they were at.
Why is she hunched over? Like why couldn't
Why
they get
she's
her a bigger
small.
chair?
Yeah.
Why is she like on the floor? Yeah, no, there's nothing about this that was well done.
I mean, is she not pulling well with the white voter in the on their side, right? Because look how much they've been trying to prop up Walls as being, he feels like the guy that they want to actually be the front runner.
Yeah.
He gets more FaceTime now. He's just higher than her. She was looking at him after one of the questions like she was relieved that he got it right. And to see that look in their eyes, it's like they're worried everything they're going to say is going to be challenged.
Yeah.
And if they are, they know they're going to crumble. That's why we still have. Do we have a debate? Do we have? I mean, has everything been nailed down?
Yeah. No, we have a debate. Hopefully it happens. She might still run away from it because at the end of the day, like again, the reason that it's taken this long for her to get an interview, is she can't just say what she thinks. She has to say what the campaign believes in. And if it was just her, she's been doing this forever, right? She's not afraid to get in front of a camera and say what she thinks, but her campaign isn't about what she thinks. It's about what her consultants and such want her to say to make her electable.
What an apparatus, dude.
Compare that to Donald Trump.
I know.
He'll comment on anything.
But the people, think about it. There are people who are running the country that are backing this. So is Joe Biden president? Who's running the office now? Is there this clandestine group who runs the Democrat Party? Is that where the power sits? Right? In anthropology, there's this thing about it's like the distance you have to people who are in power. In the United States, the distance that we have to the people in power is vast, right? We can't get near them. We can't even influence them. But the small group usually does, and they're the ones running things right now because they have the shortest distance to political power. And who are they? What do they do? Has anybody ever seen them? Because these two obviously are not running the country.
Look at that sight of Trump at his rally. All his hard hats behind him.
If they're union workers.
Yeah, I saw the head of the Teamsters today was on one of the news channels and said that they looked at their membership and more than 50% of their membership vote Republican.
Holy crap.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. There's a realignment. There's a realignment happening. And the question is whether Republicans want to win or whether they want to lose with principles, right? There's a big fight happening in the pro-life movement right now.
Yeah.
People very frustrated with Donald Trump for what he came out with yesterday, saying he wants the government to support and fund IVF procedures. IVF for people who are trying to have a baby could mean the difference between becoming parents and not becoming parents. Absolutely true. The pro-life problem with IVF is the procedure literally is designed to create more human life than they have any intention of actually bringing to birth. Right? They'll extract 8 eggs, fertilize 8 eggs, look at them and decide which ones do they think are the best chance, implant 2 or 3 of them. If one takes, congratulations, it's a miracle. If 2 or 3 of the implanted embryos take, then they have a conversation with the mom. Do you want 3 babies? Or would you like to selectively reduce, aka have an abortion on 2 of the 3 babies? For the pro-life people, that is terrible, right? The idea of creating human life that you're just going to go and kill, it runs afoul. If you believe life begins at conception, it runs afoul of your entire belief set. Absolutely, right? Donald Trump saying he's going to support IVF pissed a lot of people off.
Oh yeah.
But the way I've been describing it to them is saying, listen, we have less than 70 days, about 60 days until the election. It is going to take longer than 60 days to explain to the average American why pro-lifers have a problem with procedures that they know help create families, right? Going to take longer than 60 days to do it. Donald Trump will not be the standard bearer to convince them of the pro-life position, right? It's not going to be him. It has to be us in the pro-life movement. So there's really only two options. Do you want Donald Trump to win? Or do you want Donald Trump to lose, but with principles, right? Do you want him to say the right stuff that you know if he says it, he'll lose? And at that point, that's just stupid. Why? If you're pro-life, Kamala Harris and the DNC literally performed abortions at the DNC.
Yeah, think about that. Let that sink in.
Literally. They performed abortions in a van just outside the DNC. So do you want that? Or do you want someone who has accomplished more for the pro-life movement than any other president, but for obvious electoral reasons, is unwilling to say the absolutist things that will tank his election chances?
Yeah.
If he says what the pro-life movement wants him to say, he loses. Because no one has done the hard work of changing the hearts and minds to come around to it. I believe that's possible with time, with effort, right? Trump's not going to do it. It's not going to be him.
But he can't, because the Democrats have made a system where you have to play a certain kind of game.
Yeah.
And they've altered it forever. And in order to win, you have to start playing a game. And I hate that they've started to control it, but you've got to start winning yourself so you can start controlling the game. Right. And if you want your pieces won, it means you have to start winning the war, not the little battles.
Yeah.
Because the war is more important, because if you can win the war, all the battles fall in line.
To this day, I know someone who lives in a swing state who refuses to vote for Donald Trump because he finds his position on eminent domain offensive. I'm not
wow.
joking.
Like of all the things you got to pick, it's eminent domain.
He has bad experiences with the government trying to take his property, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump, as a builder in New York, used eminent domain on projects.
Yeah.
Early in the Republican primary in 2015, 2016, Donald Trump was a supporter of eminent domain. Pissed off this conservative so much, he to this day refuses to vote for Donald Trump, even though president really has no role over eminent domain whatsoever. It's a local issue.
Local issue, all the way.
Unless you live along a highway, no federal policy is ever going to really impact you. Unless you live along a highway and the feds want to build a new on-ramp. But that he will not vote for Trump unless Trump reverses course on an issue that means nothing to the presidency.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people like that.
I know. And then these one issue voters, and they cannot see that there's more to it than just the one issue that they've got to attach their support to, right? It just becomes so single-minded that you lose the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. You talk to a Democrat voter and they may like one thing about the candidate and they'll vote for him no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. No matter how many negative things there are.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the two voters. Right.
Yeah.
I won't vote for him because, and they'll vote for him for any reason.
Yeah.
You got to start shifting that game. You want to win elections. You got to start playing the game.
It's undeniable. Donald Trump is not a pro-life standard bearer right now. Absolutely. Right. And I'm not a one-issue voter, but I am extremely pro-life. I wrote this book, Conservative's Guide to Winning Every Abortion Argument. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Every time you buy it, I get 5 cents. No,
5 million.
I am very pro-life, right? In a perfect world, you'd have a government that believes everything I believe, right? That'd be great, right? It's not realistic. It won't happen in this election.
Yeah.
Being espousing pro-life, like orthodoxy, the absolutist vision is political suicide. in this election year. It just is, right?
It is, yeah.
So the ultimate question is, who are you going to vote for? The candidate who overturned Roe versus Wade, or the candidate whose party performed abortions at their national convention and bragged about it?
Yeah.
I mean, that if you're a pro-life voter, that's the question. Who do you want the country run by? The guy who appointed the judges who overturned Roe versus Wade, or the girl whose party had abortions performed in the parking lot at their convention? It's a really simple question with a really simple answer if you're pro-life.
Yeah. 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 You got to put some of the things aside. Don't be the one issue voter. You know what I mean? Don't be the one issue voter. There's too much at stake too. I mean, our economy, if there's 4 years of Harris Walls, it's over. I mean, it's almost over under them now.
Yeah.
With inflation so high and the
Yeah.
jobs numbers being adjusted. And there's a major fast food chain just closed dozens of stores in the Midwest. Dozens, right? Because food costs are too high to operate. Imagine all those jobs that are gone, the same jobs that are they're filled usually by illegal invaders, right?
Yeah.
So if those jobs are gone, what are those people going to do?
We saw
Where
in
are they gonna go?
California what happened when they raised the minimum wage. How much more expensive food got, and how many restaurants and fast food stops closed down because they listen, it's not affordable anymore.
Yeah.
What do you think happens if Kamala Harris gets her way and dramatically increases the federal minimum wage? Right?
And then that's just going to force them to say,
What do
hey,
you
we
think's
need
gonna
to
happen?
take care of people's rent for them again, right? It'll be the lockdown stuff all over again, except now you will want it.
Yeah.
Now you won't want it. Now you'll need it.
Yeah.
Because without it, there's no jobs, right? I mean, you want to go work, but you can't find one. It'll be an artificial depression if we get another Harris Walls, right?
And then you want to go buy food, but the Harris price controls. They can only sell grain at X dollars per bushel, and unfortunately, it costs more to grow grain, so there's no grain. Sorry.
Yeah.
No food.
Can you imagine going to the store and you can't get milk, eggs, or bread?
Yeah.
Those are the things that disappear.
Oh, the biggest lie. The biggest lie. Did you see it? It came out this week.
Which one?
Kroger increased the cost of eggs above inflation.
Oh my gosh, that one made me sick when I read that one. I'm like,
Well, did you read what it actually meant? So they said Kroger executive. Here we go. Kroger executive testified supermarket giant raised the price of milk and egg beyond inflation costs. So what happens is inflation drove prices up, right?
Yeah.
And then they stayed there. So when prices went down a little bit, Kroger didn't immediately reduce the prices because there's there's different kind of impulses behind pricing. The costs directly influence how much it's going to cost when costs increase, right? The pressures to cause prices to go down are not the costs, it's the competition. So anyone who's ever gotten gas during a hurricane or during an emergency, you know that the price of gas increases very quickly, right?
Fast.
But you also notice it takes a lot longer for the prices to go down to where they were, even though the cost of gas has gone down immediately after. The cost drives prices up. Competition is what drives prices down. So in this case, what happened? Kroger increased the cost along with everyone as eggs got more expensive. When eggs got a little bit cheaper, Walmart, very price conscious, Walmart reduced the price of a dozen eggs by 14 cents, Josh. Kroger looked at their nearby direct competitors, not Walmart, but actual grocery stores, saw that grocery stores weren't reducing their prices and kept their prices the same, 14 cents above Walmart. So this entire headline right here is because Kroger raised the costs along with inflation and didn't immediately decrease them when Walmart did. And this inflated costs was 14 cents a dozen. There are a lot of reasons that Americans can't afford their rent, their mortgage payments, can't afford to put gas in the car, struggling economically. You know what is not one of the reasons, Josh?
What?
That Kroger in 1 week in 2022 kept their prices of eggs 14 cents higher than Walmart. But they make this headline to make it seem like the big bag grocery stores with the 2% profit margins are ripping everyone off.
Right.
When in reality, this was 1 week in 2022.
The evil price gougers at the supermarket, even though they're still operating on like a 1.4% margin gain.
Yeah.
You know, they are 1% away of making profit, away from going out of business.
Some years
Think about that.
They lose money. Some years
Yes.
grocery stores lose money.
Yeah. Think about that. So if they no longer operate, where are you going to go to get your food?
Yeah.
Are you going to go down to the local bar? Are you going to go down to the local store? You'll be forced into the largest corporate owned, probably government subsidized factory warehouse where you'll have to go pick it all up. And then we have communism.
Yes.
Now the entire supply chain is controlled by whom?
Yeah.
An aristocracy, your
Yeah.
government.
And just look at this. When Kroger didn't immediately reduce the price of the eggs, you know when they did reduce the price of their eggs? When they saw that they had too much on hand, that people weren't buying them, and that they were going to go bad before people bought them, right? That's when the grocery stores reduced their price. Hey, we got to get rid of these eggs.
Yep.
So a couple weeks later, they reduced the cost, right? But because for a couple weeks, they kept them 14 cents a dozen. 14 cents a dozen. For a consumer, like, let's say you eat a dozen eggs a week, right?
I know people that do.
But for a consumer, 14 cents, that's not why you can't make your car payment that month, right? Obviously, 14 cents will add up, right?
Yeah.
But the way they crafted this headline is just so freaking dishonest. And this is the problem with the media. The media aren't calling balls and strikes anymore. These reporters look at the world the way they want the world to look, and they report every news story through that prism.
Absolutely. I mean, they're trying to make the store the boogeyman in a situation where the true boogeyman is national and local government. Democrats. I mean, that is the answer. That is why eggs are through the roof.
And in that case, also avian flu. That wasn't fun either.
Damn that avian flu. Right?
They lost a lot of egg-laying hens.
I know. There was a ton.
So,
there was a lot of fires too.
Yeah. Those never got to the bottom of those.
No. Nobody will.
Every couple of weeks, food distribution plants just seem to burn down.
Wasn't that kind of crazy?
Just one of life's mysteries.
It's all part of the plan, right? All part of the plan.
One of life's mysteries.
Well,
that's it. We'll have to solve that mystery on another episode. That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. We're on X. For the audio edition, make sure you subscribe to the audio edition. Very good. And let us know what you think. We're planning future episodes. We'd like to get your feedback. We got more interviews lined up. Hope you like those. Lots happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, happy Friday. That's it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back the country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next time.